Hey, welcome back, everybody. The Majors Live, episode 328 here on TMS Next Radio, themajors.net. We're back. I am Adam Hernandez. With me is Shawn.
Yay, I'm
and
back.
Shawn's back. And Dorf down in Notre Dame land. Dorf, how you doing tonight?
Good. I just still it's only.
What did you say?
With lubrication in hand, he means fine craft beer.
Is that why he's drinking more beers? Because he's living in South Bend now?
I don't think I'm actually probably drinking less than I was before.
No, because you're out of the Detroit area? Is that what it is?
Yeah. My day is less stressful.
I don't have to deal with Detroit. Don't have to deal with...
Metro Detroit traffic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it sucks. But, it's worse in other places, I'm sure. Anyways, though. We're back, though. Like I said, episode 328. We've got a couple of topics that we're going to get to tonight. One of which is we labeled it progressiveness in sports and pro sports. And I know people are going to get the impression that we are talking about it's going to be like some political issue in sports. And that's not what we mean when we say progressiveness in sports. What we're generally going to be talking about is what professional sports can do to make things a little bit more exciting for fans. Maybe something a little different, maybe something a little bit more off the beaten path than maybe what we're used to. And we're going to kind of compare the American model in terms of pro sports to the European model of pro sports. And some of it is bad. Some of it is, something the American model is, does better, in my opinion. And some of it, I think the European model does a little bit better. We're also our main topic, though, tonight is the problem with the media and sports culture. Has it become toxic? We're going to be touching on some of Jalen Rose's comments after that Kevin Durant injury. And as we know, Kevin Durant is going to be out for the rest of this season, the rest of the finals, and
possibly next year.
Possibly.
He's gonna miss all of next year.
Yeah, all of next season. We'll have to wait and see. We're gonna get into a little would you rather, bitches and badasses, to close out the show. But first, I do want to get into that progressiveness in pro sports, and this was kind of touched off by something that Adam Silver was kind of alluding to a couple of weeks ago. The thing I like about Adam Silver is it always seems like he's willing to engage whatever question is given to him. And what I mean by that is when somebody from the media or a fan or whatever brings up some idea, whether it is whether it's something completely off the rails or, some rumor or something like that, Adam Silver always seems like he's willing to engage it in some light or another. He's not like a Roger Goodell who, just wants to toe the company line and be like, no, this is how things are. We're not quite sure how, we're not quite sure what you're talking about, or, he's going to pull the line of the owners and, not really discuss anything, really not divulge anything about, what's going on in the NFL. Adam Silver seems like he's more willing to talk about certain things, certain rumors, certain proposals within the NBA that is being brought up, and what I'm talking about here in particular is a proposal within the NBA to maybe have a mid-season tournament and or an end of the season second chance tournament for some teams. And this comes via the Associated Press. The format we have in place now, I'm a traditionalist on one hand, but on the other hand, it's 50 years old or so, presenting an 82-game season, and there's nothing magical about it, Silver said. I think it's on the league office to always be challenging the way we do things, to be paying attention to changing viewer habits, a changing marketplace, a new world of the way media is presented, often on smaller devices, less on screens. People have shorter attention spans, and saying, this is an incredible game. It's never been more exciting. The athleticism has never been greater. Fantastic players coming from all around the world. But what's the best way to put the season together? And he goes on. That's why I'm particularly interested in looking at different kinds of formats. At mid-season tournaments, for example, play-in tournaments, because even accepting that players have so many miles on their bodies, there may be better ways to present it, Silver said. Assuming guys are going to play 82 games, maybe there should be a certain number of games in a season, and then there should be 2 tournaments throughout the season. So what he's doing here is almost the opposite of what the NFL has proposed in recent years, where they're talking about expanding the regular season. What Silver is getting at here is cutting down on that 82 regular game season, but not really cutting it down and taking away basketball in general. He's talking about adding this mid-season tournament where, yes, players' schedules are still going to be cut down because not every team and not every player is going to be playing every single game in this tournament, but also have that second chance tournament at the end of the season. How that will work itself out, I have no freaking clue. But when I hear something like this, it's intriguing to me because I'm kind of on board with him when he's talking about, when he's mentioning some of that earlier stuff about, you know, how you keep fans engaged. And yes, for the most part, there may be some engagement throughout an 82-game season, you know, depending on where you are in the country and what's happening. But how many people have you ever talked to, and this is maybe even yourselves, where they discuss the NHL or Major League Baseball or the NBA? And we'll just take the NBA and NHL for that matter. How many times have you ever heard a fan say, oh, well, I'm not interested in the NBA or the NHL until, you know, after January? You hear that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
I mean, wouldn't something like this be somewhat revolutionary in American professional sports? Mm-hmm. To have like a mid-season tournament to determine whatever. Again, all ideas are on the table. And then a second chance tournament for teams at the end of the year? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Well, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this.
Hey, Adam, here's the problem with this. I don't think the Adam Silver is doing this for, I don't want to say like the health of the league or like the semi-altruistic reasons you may have assigned to him or whoever wrote the article here for the Big Lead that you're referencing.
No, this one's actually from Yahoo by way of the Associated
Yeah, that's
Press.
right. The next one's in the Big Lead. Sorry. Yep. My problem is it's disguised as that. However, this is just another way for Adam Silver to grow the overall revenue pie for the NBA.
Okay.
The NBA isn't going to lose much overall financially by eliminating a couple midweek, mid-season games that weren't on national television.
No, I didn't think they would.
Which is effectively what this will do. So you're going to get, we're going to have a mid-season tournament. Those are all going to be national TV games. Mm-hmm. That'll be probably taking place during the end of the NFL and college football seasons. Is that smart to try and jam a mid-season tournament in right about that time? That remains to be seen. However, if you're really worried about these guys playing, they're, load management or whatever, and I understand the NBA put into place some I don't want to call it anti-tanking rules, but like anti-player rest rules, essentially discouraging teams from Tim Duncaning it at like the end of his career. Remember when Greg Popovich
Yeah,
instead of
I remember that.
DNP coach's decision, it was DNP old. Or load management is the newer term for it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it should be in these teams' best interest to, instead of playing, a late 20s, early 30s, higher end player 35 minutes a night in a seemingly useless game during the regular season, that maybe, hell, this dude only plays 20 minutes tonight or 15 in order to keep him fresh for the playoffs or keep him fresh for the stretch run. Part of what makes the NBA and the NHL, I know this has been my criticism of the NHL, and it's been on these airwaves for a long time, that making it to the playoffs is cheap. When more than half your league makes it to the playoffs, it doesn't mean anything. The regular season doesn't mean anything until you make it harder, very much similar to how Major League Baseball and the NFL do, that really every game, well, not necessarily Major League Baseball that every game counts, but there's a very limited chance that there's only really 6 teams total in the MLB that at least have a chance, once playoff time comes around, because, 4 others, yeah, they make it for a total of just a third of the league, but their playoff potentially could be 1 game. Well, the NFL, only 6 teams make it from each division. That's, 12 out of 32. That's less than a third.
I mean, especially,
or just a little bit more than a third. So, sorry. If you want to make the regular season matter and make more people pay attention, you need to make it harder to get into the playoffs. And here's another thing. Take a look at the model of, I don't know if all minor league baseball does this, but for specifically low A league around the Midwest League, they have a first half and a second half championship. So if you win the first half, or like finish in the top 2 in the first half and then finish in the top 2 in the second half, those 4 teams make the playoffs. So you could be absolute dog shit in the second half. It could make some very interesting dynamics if you instituted something like that. Maybe I'm saying only 2 playoff spots are guaranteed in the first half championship. So teams go for it early and go for it often and be a little bit more aggressive in the middle of the season, because every game matters. If there was some sort of secondary playoff guarantee, you might see some more meaningful games in the middle of the year.
And I'm fine with limiting the regular season and making it harder for teams in the NHL and the NBA, making it harder for them to get to the postseason. That's fine with me. As far as like resting players and all that sort of thing, there's nothing revolutionary about that, though.
No, I mean, look at the Major League Baseball schedule. Even the best players on the planet only, they get probably 10 games a year where they might get one at bat in a pinch hit role, and they probably get 10 other ones off. So
yeah, and how boring can the MLB season get throughout the year?
The dog days of summer, we're about to roll into that.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, it's
as soon as. I mean, the NHL season ends tonight. The NBA season ends, at some point this week.
Yeah.
They're about to be the only game in town until football starts again in a couple months. And not that anybody cares about golf or, no offense to Women's World Cup, but there's nothing going on in the sports world for the next 3 months. And I mean, unless, of course, you really want to, fall into the hype machine that is NFL training camp. Woohoo. There's nothing going on besides Major League Baseball. And I'll tell you what, man, even as I don't want to call myself a hardcore fan, but as a harder core fan, it still gets fucking boring, especially when your team's bad.
Oh yeah, and I don't want to hear people come back at us like, "Oh, you guys aren't real fans." It's like, come on.
It would take so much.
You're
human.
You're
not a robot.
Yeah, there's only. And look, we're in Detroit. We're Tigers fans, and the Tigers fucking blow. Yeah, there's only so much Tigers baseball this year.
Even when they were good, there's only so much I could watch in a summer.
Yeah, you're not going to sit there and watch every single game.
I can tell you, I am a hardcore baseball fan, but I've never watched 162 straight games of baseball. No. I can tell you that right now. You could add I could say I have listened to and watched 162 games, but I can't. There's no way I can watch.
Well, you have a life, Shawn.
Yeah, so exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
And here's the other thing, and this is like the primary reason why I don't play fantasy baseball. I can't be brought to give a fuck right now.
Oh my
about baseball.
Like, I haven't played fantasy baseball in years because like you have to check it every single day, and if you miss something, you're like you get so irritated. And it's like that's gonna give you a heart attack.
I mean, the grind of like the NFL fantasy season is hard enough, let alone the grind of
it's
like
only once
playing
a week,
NBA or
hey, I went to the
NBA. Go ahead.
I went to the championship game against Shawn in fantasy baseball, and I didn't look.
I would say you did.
I think I remember that year.
That was like what 3-4 years ago or something like that.
I think it was longer than that.
Yeah,
I didn't check my lineup after like the third week.
I think that was the last time I played too.
Well, I mean, again, I love the thinking, and look, I'm not thinking about money or anything like that when it comes to, what's the reasoning? What's the real reasoning behind Adam Silver, potentially taking this on, or any other commissioner, whether you're talking about Gary Bettman or.
All I was trying to say is don't play this off as him trying to be, the fans' best bro here. It's all about growing that.
I'm not, but on one hand though too, I mean you have to keep the fans engaged. In order for to keep that that revenue coming in. If fans aren't engaged, then you're gonna have a problem like we've had with the NHL several years ago when they were coming in behind NASCAR in terms of viewership.
Talk about something that's fallen off. NASCAR used to be front and center and everything in ESPN, and boy did they drop it like it was hot.
You know what? Though interesting you bring that up though, Dorf, because that may be something that has gone a little bit too overboard in terms of their attempted creativity with the sport itself. That's something where they've added completely too much to the sport, too many different dynamics to, winning a race and what's going on on a particular weekend during a race. That is something they've done something to NASCAR where they've gotten too creative with it that it's completely killed the sport.
Well, that's a great point here. And is Adam Silver? Should your advice to him be, it isn't broken, man. Don't fix it. Well, it's not perfect, but
he's not like changing a ton.
You can only break it.
He's more just like spicing it up a little bit. He's kind of bringing like college basketball kind of vibe into some little tournaments and like. That's what the sport needs, to be honest. Like NBA is a dying sport right now. I'm like it's getting worse, and they need to spice something up.
Or do you turn it into some sort of like, all right, the top 4 seeds are traditionally awarded. It's the top 4 seeds at the end of the season standings. The other 4 seeds are distributed amongst the other teams in like little like Maui Invitational style tournaments where you play 4 games in 4 days, and the winner of that gets one of the other 4 spots.
Dorf, I'm willing to listen to anything and everything when it comes to something like that. And I'm not talking about the NBA and Adam Silver taking on this radical NASCAR type of thing where where it ends up killing the sport. Or when you're watching NASCAR, you're not quite sure who's winning the race because there's all these like mini races and everything happening within the one big race, and you're like, okay, well, who actually won at the end? Was it Kurt Busch or was it somebody else? Right. Because I have no fucking clue what is happening within.
Bets in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I have no fucking clue what's going on right now in this.
For a pit stop, and all of a sudden, the other people are over here, and then other people stop for a pit stop. Then all of a sudden, this guy drops back here, and then there's a little race right there between these three. It's like what?
Well, you see, that's why I'm still on the IndyCar train here,
I like
just
the
because
rally races.
Yeah, just because it's you know what's going on in the IndyCar race. But anyways, though, I think Dorf and I have talked about something along the lines of potentially innovating sports in general, and we've mentioned this before about the loan system within
relegation model.
Within Major League Baseball. And that's something that you can put into other of the the 3 major sports as well, whether you're talking NBA, NHL, or the NFL. Man, I don't know so much about the NFL, but the NBA and the NHL for sure. And leagues have undertaken kind of these revolutionary, quote unquote, types of things to spice things up a little bit. And I'm talking more so about the All-Star games, where the NHL introduced the format of
the 3-on-3 tournament. That's fun as hell, man.
Well, I'm talking about first when they were having two players draft their own teams, and then they made it better when they started, these 3-on-3 tournaments, and it was each division partaking in it, and I think that's great. I think that's something that has certainly worked for the NHL, and it's awesome. And I think that that's something that could work equally as well with the NBA, and maybe even better, considering the street basketball roots that the game has had at times.
You could even do something in the middle of the year where players stop play. That's specifically basketball here. What I'm talking. You have players don't play for their teams. There's like a 2-week tournament where it's, I hate to call it like shirts and skins in the park, but like live draft, pick them and play, and just watch them. Play ball like that. That seems like something that would be incredibly fun too. Now, there's no way in hell the teams who sign their paychecks would ever be on board with that. But because all of a sudden Kevin Durant pops his Achilles in this game and then can't play for Golden State for the next year and a half. In the the mean nothing tournament in the middle of the year, that'll be the end of that right there. But and here's the other thing, these sports leagues, like, look at all the speed up measures that Major League Baseball has taken in a effort to try and make the game more appealing to younger people. You know what all those measures that they've taken so far have done on average game time?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Yep.
The game is still getting longer. And you know why that is? Pitching is getting better. Hitting is turning into more of a feast or famine, because you got the damn geeks involved, and that's the more they determined statistically that is a better path to success. And you know what? There's a lot more strikeouts, which are exciting if you like pitching. There's a lot more home runs if you like offense. The boring shit, like starters going 7 innings is overrated, because you get to see a new power arm coming out of the pen every inning.
Yeah.
The opener's here to stay. It's just, what? You tried to change the game. The game said, F you. We're going to change it. It changed itself to something I would argue it's at its most exciting since the steroid era home run race.
Okay. Shawn, did you want to add anything else?
No, you guys pretty much.
Because I do want to kind of take a look at the European and American models when it comes to professional sports, and obviously, the big sport over in Europe is football, soccer. And it's very intriguing, I think, and like I said at the top of the show, I think that there's some things that Europe does well, in particular with Premier League and La Liga and Serie A and so on and so forth. And I think there's some things that aren't done very well. And I think the American side of things does things better in that respect. What I think the Americans do better than the Europeans is spread the wealth a little bit more. You have these certain clubs over in Europe, and I'm talking Arsenal, I'm talking about Barcelona, I'm talking about Real Madrid, I'm talking about Manchester United, Juventus, who can go and spend and spend and spend and spend and spend,
like half of them,
and just offer ridiculous amounts of money to Ronaldo, or you have Liverpool being able to spend a bunch of money on Mo Salah. You're not going to get guys You're not going to get some of these lower echelon clubs, even in the high leagues, even, the lower echelon clubs in Serie A or the Premier League, like Crystal Palace or even a team that's there every single year, like the Spurs. I mean, they're not going to be able to and fork over a shit ton of money to get some of these premier guys, no pun intended, to come on and play on their team because they just don't have the money. Mm-hmm. Whereas you look at the American model with salary caps, and I know
and revenue sharing,
it enables teams like the Green Bay Packers to go out there and have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL, and Aaron Rodgers, and sustain themselves in an incredibly small city like Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you really can't have that.
The reason that works is the specifically in soccer, it's the transfer market, because if all of a sudden you develop an elite player, mm-hmm. you get to sell him for bazillions of dollars.
And if he's that good and gives you a Super Bowl, for example.
Well, I'm not even talking. I'm talking specifically European soccer. Like if Bob Smitherman is playing for the LA Galaxy, and all of a sudden he's the next, I don't know, Wayne Rooney, and Christian Pulisic is a perfect example of this. He's been sold, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, twice, and he's like 22. Mm-hmm. The previous team that owned and purchased him and signed him and then traded him, or however you want to term it, made a shit ton of money on him each time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you look at the transfer that Mo Salah was just done. Like, I think his previous club got like $90 million US for that transfer. For a guy they probably signed when they first found him for a couple $100,000, annually, they sold for $90 million. That covers their operating expenses for the next little while, which allows them to then stick around and keep going. So they make money on selling these players to the bigger clubs. It's not revenue sharing, but that's the reason that a team like, a smaller English city, like, for example, like Swindon, mm-hmm. which can support a tier one actually I believe it's like the second tier team. But with, a stadium that maybe seats a couple thousand people, can support a club with an operating budget of several million a year. Like, that's the reason it works. Unless, of course, you don't have that depth of pro sports here. You have essentially pro sports monopolies in their individual segments in North America that, the Canadian Football League exists, but those guys make $40,000 a year compared to like the practice squad guys in the US that make over 100. Like, it doesn't compete. And there's 12 teams in the Canadian League? I don't even know exactly, but
less than that.
What?
A lot less.
Is it
than
all?
That. Yeah.
It's only like 8 anyway, but it's, that's the reason it works here in the United States, is because all the money is pooled together. The last league, the NBA and the ABA were the last leagues that kind of ran together next to each other as, you could sort of call it co-equals for any period of time. And that was that died in the 70s, right? If I remember correctly.
I believe so, yeah.
So
before any of us were even born.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So unless, of course, we don't have that sort of depth of smaller middle-sized towns with sort of professional sports teams, it's starting to pop up here domestically with like soccer. I mean, you're seeing a lot of semi-professional smaller town, a town of like 20,000 people has a semi-professional soccer team. And, those guys, that's not their only job who play that. They work day jobs and do that at night or whatever. But that's the kind of steps that need to be taken if you want to develop a European style system where, those teams can sign guys to contracts and then fork them over to, the New York Red Bulls for, $250,000 or something like that. And that's just the way, if you want to develop that depth of sport where you could run a model like that, that's what you're going to have to do. I mean, baseball's had independent leagues and the minor leagues forever, but you haven't, that sort of relationship hasn't grown because, quite frankly, minor league baseball players are a dime a dozen.
And you know what?
It pains me to say that, but they're the 95% of those guys in the minor leagues are utterly replaceable. They're just farm fillers for the top 3 or 4 guys in the system to be able to play ball with.
I mean, going back to that, going back to Europe and whatnot, and maybe something that the United States could take, and like I was saying, something the United States does better, but I mean, you're mentioning the transfers and whatnot, Dorf, and yeah, you're right. I mean, that's how a lot of these clubs can sustain themselves and and keep on operating because of these massive transfer fees.
They're also owned by
by billionaires, millionaires,
mobsters.
Yeah. The problem. I mean, there's 2 things. One is that, technically speaking, an equivalent club team in Europe, say again, you're some small town club team equivalent in England. Technically speaking, you can work your way up and win the Premier League, and then go on to play in the Europa League, or win the entire European, win the entire European Championship, the Champions League. Technically speaking, you can do that. Is it likely? The last unlikely team to do something like that was Leicester City a few years ago when they won the Premier League.
At the same time, they still play in the English Premier League.
Yes, they still play in the English Premier League. You're right,
and they have for a while. Yeah, it's not like they drove. I believe League 2 or whatever like that is like the 4th tier of English football.
Yeah.
So that would be like the equivalent of like high A baseball.
Yeah.
Teams haven't made it from there and up, moved up for 4 years straight and won the Champions League right away. That I doubt that's ever happened.
Yeah. I mean, the downside to all of that though is, again, there are those transfer fees, but realistically speaking, none of those lower tier teams are ever going to. I mean,
but they don't exist to do that. Though.
No, you're right. You're right. They don't. But I mean, all of these teams are going to stay exactly where they are.
Well, and here's the other thing: those lower tier leagues, teams fold all the time.
Sure, they do.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the other thing: why it'll never happen in the States is. Owners, because that involves the risk of relegation and the absolute devaluation of your business overnight. There's no way in hell U.S.-based sports owners are going to expose themselves to that for no gain on their own.
Probably not.
Like they don't stand to get. Why would the damn it, the name of the family that owns the Tampa Bay Rays name escapes me. I was prepared for this and now I forget. But there's no way that family. We're like, okay, here's another one. There's no way Jimmy Haslam, the guy who owns the Cleveland Browns.
Talking about Stuart Sternberg?
I couldn't remember. Yeah, sure. There's no way Jimmy Haslam, or the Ford family, the years that both the Lions and Browns went 0-16 respectively, would have said, okay, if we finish in the bottom 4 of the league this year, we accept relegation to the CFL. There's no way in fucking hell those guys. Oh yeah, and our $1 billion company will instantly become worth about $15 million overnight. There's no way in freaking hell they would ever do that, especially with any sort of revenue sharing model where they're pretty much guaranteed to make money every year. There's just no way they'll let that happen.
You know what though, Dorf, Shawn, it would be fun as hell to see a system like that.
I don't deny it.
Here in the United States.
Just fall
you combine something like that with what we talked about a couple of weeks ago with eliminating the amateur draft.
And you don't like tanking? That would get rid of it right away.
Oh my God. Can you imagine that? Even you know what? Even if you do something light, like maybe you break up the NHL, the MLB, the NFL, and the NBA. Maybe you break it up in half, and you have two separate leagues. Like I know the NBA and the NBA has 30 teams right now, so you have two 15-team leagues. NHL.
Well, even if you broke it up and then added some smaller city teams to it, I think you could totally do it and grow like the overall number of teams to like 40 or 45 or something like that between a first and second tier league.
Yeah,
I think that you could do that.
And that's what I'm thinking here too. Exactly, what I'm thinking is you break it up. For starters, you don't get regulated, beyond the second tier league. And even though there's also rumors going around Europe, that there's going to be some super league there and I think we've talked about it on the show before, where you're going to have teams like Arsenal, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Man City, Juventus, Bayern, all joining forces and joining the Super League, and they're going to have
here's
they're going to have protection too, where they wouldn't get regulated for like 15 years or something like that.
Well, and here's another thing about European soccer. They play, let's say like 3 times every 2 weeks, roughly, with rosters the size of football teams.
No, they play couple times a week. They play probably about twice a week.
They play about an average of like 3 times in 12 days.
Okay.
With like I mentioned, rosters the size of small elementary schools. You can you could add more games where your team could be part of 3 different leagues at the same time, specifically in soccer. Yeah. Your best players like Lionel Messi aren't going to play every day, but you know what? You could totally do it where your team, partakes. And hell, I mean, this happens already. I mean, you have Champions League, international competition that takes place at the same time where guys pop in and out, but the same team with the same jersey appears on a field every, twice or, 2 times a week or whatever. So unless you could do something like that in the NBA where, we're going to play more games. However, barring injury, LeBron James is only required to appear in 70 of the 100 games on the team schedule this year. And they're going to play, the 82-game regular season. There's also going to be an 18-game mini side tournament that's entirely just for cash money for the players, but they compete as a team. And then there's going to be like a 8-game showcase league that they have to participate in, and contractually, if they're healthy, they have to participate in 70 of the 82 regular season games, 9 of the 18 of the fun ball tournament, and all 8 of the side tournament games if they're healthy. Something like that where the overall load doesn't grow, but you could have some side action. I think that that could make it work as well too.
Okay.
Imagine if they did that, like the amount of contract, like their.
Oh yeah, it would require.
There would be the clause would be like 50 pages. Okay, if you get hurt here, you don't get paid for this. If you get hurt here, you're not getting paid. Just like imagine the contracts if something like this happened, how difficult those contracts would be,
or what the NFL owners would demand.
Yeah, and like just imagine like the sports agents would have a field day with that.
In a collision sport like football, that would never work. However, like basketball,
I don't even think that would work in basketball, really.
Basketball or hockey, I bet you it could work.
I don't know. All I'm saying is I want to see.
No, I think it could work in baseball too.
I want to see sports leagues now expand to 40 teams and have the league broken up into 2.
That'd be crazy.
I want to see that now.
That would be insane.
I think that would be fucking cool as hell.
Just
and get rid of the amateur draft too.
Yeah, think about like going back to like teams falling apart, like how like in soccer and stuff like that, teams just disappear because they can't fund it. Imagine how baseball would be if that was like that in baseball, say the past 10 years.
Yeah,
half the teams wouldn't even be here.
Well, yeah, I mean, this season, this season you have
Baltimore, Toronto, all the AL Central, everything. It was like there would be like 6 teams.
Never won their championship because they would have still been in League 2 at that point.
Yeah, they wouldn't have gotten promoted yet.
Yeah.
Anyways,
gotten promoted out of Tier 2 yet. So.
Anyways, let's move on though. Our big topic tonight: the problem with media and sports culture, and this is stemming from what happened the other night with Kevin Durant, essentially coming back from a calf strain early to try to help his team, the Golden State Warriors, dig themselves out of a 3-1 hole and somehow, some way try to three-peat as NBA champions. And Jalen Rose, after all of this happened, went on the air and blamed the media, sports culture, for Kevin Durant's injury in a segment he did. I believe it was for what was it? Was it ESPN?
First Take, right?
First Take, yeah. And you know what? Actually, let me see if I can cue up the video here. Oh, hold on one second.
All right.
Let me try to get this going here.
And I'm not hedging my bet in any way, shape, or form. I was the person that came on this show in January of 2017 and defended the honor of one Kawhi Leonard when people were questioning whether he got misdiagnosed or not.
Dorf,
he went on to play 9 games that year, and as Max mentioned, ultimately got traded. Kevin Durant, in this situation, the reason why he should not have played, there are multiple answers to this question. One, I blame the overall culture of sports. There's a herd mentality that takes place when you're a professional athlete. And all of a sudden, when you start to make a lot of money, people think that you're immune to everything that comes with being a human being. And so if the Golden State Warriors were up 3-1, KD would not have returned. But since they were down 3-1, he was forced to return based on all of the chatter that we knew was going to take place. He's soft. He really didn't want it. He wasn't committed to the team. Oh, and he was leaving anyway. And he knows that. That's why he decided he wanted to come back. There's a group called State Property that I loved growing up. And one of the things I think it was Oskino and Sparks said, people will bring flowers to your funeral but don't bring you soup when you're sick. That's what I'm seeing for KD right now. Everybody fake acting like they caring about KD's best interest when they don't. It's phony to me. I just said Friday night on NBA Countdown that KD's workout did not go well for nobody involved. And then when KD got cleared to play, people felt like they wanted to assassinate my character. Oh, you didn't know what you was talking about. KD's cleared to play. Just because he's out there warming up and doing dunks, that's adrenaline. It's a rush. He's a professional athlete. That's just like people having coffee in the morning or espresso or sugar. It's going to be a rush. And then there's a crash. And Stephen A., you can't be out there at 75% going against Kawhi Leonard in the NBA Finals. This ain't June. You said that he can't take somebody off the dribble unnecessarily. That's his game. If he can't do that, he shouldn't play.
I'll respond to it.
He should not play.
Dorf, I don't think you can hear it, so I'll go ahead.
Yeah, my apologies on that, guys.
No, that's fine.
Better be.
That's why
I'll go ahead and read a quote from it too, because I think Jalen Rose has a very good point here.
You don't need to do it for me. I actually watched it earlier.
Okay, I think he has a great point. I really do. And you know what? All the power to Kevin Durant for coming back last night and trying to give it a go. And let's be frank here too. Kevin Durant doesn't play in Game 5. Golden State isn't winning that game.
The game would have been
Game's over. Game's over. Mm-hmm. Toronto would have came back at the end, won that game, and it would have been the end. Toronto Raptors would be your NBA champions. And he's Jalen Rose. I mean, he's right. Kevin Durant didn't have to come back. No. He could have. He didn't have anything else to prove to the media, to the fans, to the NBA. He's already done it. Mm-hmm. he is a multiple-time NBA champion, NBA Finals MVP. He's done it. He's one of the best players in the world at what he does. Yet one last thing, Dorf. Yet he was fucked either way. Either way, Kevin Durant was fucked in last night's game because you know what? If he doesn't come back, and Jalen Rose is right, if Kevin Durant doesn't come back last night, then yes, he's going to be labeled as a soft player. He's going to be labeled as a guy who doesn't care, despite what he's done prior to that for Golden State. But if he does come back, well, we saw the result as to what has happened or what happens when you do come back early from an injury like that, especially in a game like basketball. And Jalen Rose brought up another good point too. You can't come back at 75% and go up against Kawhi Leonard in the NBA Finals, especially the way that Kawhi Leonard has been playing this game.
And then in the championship, your adrenaline is even twice the amount than a normal season.
Absolutely.
You're out there to win. You're hungry.
Yeah.
You're going to be playing 150% instead of 100%.
Yep. Dorf, what do you want to say?
Willis, he was hoping to have his Willis Reed moment. He was hoping to come back and lead him all the way back.
Sure.
Kevin Durant, I think Jalen Rose kind of is disconnected with the power dynamics of the modern NBA. Back when he played, it was a shared power dynamic between the players in the league. This decision to play had nothing to do with Kevin Durant. Well, the league or the media. It had everything to do with Kevin. Kevin is too good of a guy he doesn't want to let his teammates down, where the average guy in this league would have looked out for number one, especially in a contract year, and said, fuck that, I'm not putting my health on the line. I want to get paid. I'm not going to put at risk a future contract because there's no bullshit like there is in the NFL where, I question this guy's dedication and is willing to do what it takes to win. No, Kevin Durant was going to get a max deal, whether it's from Golden State or wherever the hell he goes. And now because he's been hurt and actually ruptured that Achilles, that's in doubt. Somebody will still give him a max contract. However, he's now going to miss probably the next 15 to 18 months recovering from that, because that is a highly, 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 ask anybody who's ever done a surgery on an Achilles. My brother, who's in the athletic medicine, this is his word to describe surgeries on Achilles. It's like it's trying to sew back together ripped spaghetti. His career is irreparably altered now that he has that injury, and he did it all because he didn't want to let his teammates down. He did not want to let the fan base down. It wasn't just something to do because he got bullied by the sports media to, you're just a selfish player, or you don't care about your team. No, that had nothing to do with it. It didn't have anything to do with the bullying of the media. He made an altruistic decision trying to not look out for everybody else but himself, and it came back to bite him in the ass. But here's the one ultimate thing. I'm not going to cry for Kevin Durant because he's going to be able to wipe his tears with $100 bills for the rest of his life. I don't feel sorry for him, but Jalen Rose, I think, is off base in his take here.
I'm not worried that Kevin Durant is going to be shopping at a Salvation Army or something like that here, because he's going to be missing all of 2018 or all of 2019, 2020.
That's pocket change, don't know.
Yeah, but look, I think that again, I disagree with you in some sense, Dorf, because Kevin Durant was getting it from his own team mid-season. I
think that was Draymond Green being a douchebag. I
think
that was anything.
That's
that was a
part of it. That's pure pressure.
Yeah, that's part of it, though. I mean, if he was getting it from his own team, then he's just gonna be leaving at the end of the year anyway. I mean, Kevin Durant's going to he would have had to have listened to this, for at least the next year.
Kevin Durant didn't say anything about that incident. That was all reporting about Draymond Green.
No, because Kevin Durant
is a sandpaper pest, and that's the role he plays in the NBA, and he's damn good at it.
No, because Kevin Durant is obviously look, Kevin Durant's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a good guy that,
quite honestly, like, did it look like it affected their on-court relationship before or after? It really didn't. It was drama for the sake of drama.
Well, maybe that's something
it was probably passed off in the locker room as, just what two competitive teammates say to each other when they're kind of ticked off about something.
Well, maybe that's something
it had nothing to do with that.
Maybe that's something that you can credit. Maybe that's something that you can credit to Steve Kerr for being able to manage the situation, manage the egos within that locker room, and put some water on that fire. But I mean, to say that Kevin Durant wouldn't have had to, suffer the consequences of not being able to, or not giving it a go in the NBA Finals, especially when his team is down 3-1. I think people are kidding themselves in that sense. Because
the NBA is the ultimate players' league. Everybody, you're not going to see NBA fans, bitching and complaining like they do at NFL players, because why aren't you showing up for OTAs when you're trying to get a new contract? No, this is the league that would be like, I totally get it. You're looking out for you. You don't feel like you can play despite the fact that doctors have told you to, that you can. I get you, brother. You got to look out for number one. That's fine.
But this is something
that happens in this league. That would be a one-day story that, Kevin Durant's a selfish player because he didn't come back from a calf strain, which is, commonly a disguise, especially when you're trying to do playoff injury hiding of an Achilles injury. Like, come on.
But
there's nobody no serious person in the sports world outside of, bullshit armchair commentators like ourselves would honestly believe that Kevin Durant was a selfish player because he didn't gut it out in the NBA Finals with an Achilles injury.
But it's not like we haven't heard this before, though, Dorf. I mean, LeBron James was getting the same type of bullshit when he was in Cleveland. When he was in Cleveland and people were ragging on him because he couldn't take, the Cleveland Cavaliers couldn't get them over the hump when it was him and a bunch of fucking, D-League players at the time. This is something that is very, very prevalent, I think, in the NBA.
You mean Alonzo G and Zydrunas Ilgauskas aren't legitimate NBA? Well, Ilgauskas is kind of, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
No, I'm sorry. They're not. But I mean, on the other hand, though, I can certainly see why, and we've mentioned this before as well. Never trust a team doctor.
Fuck no, they're not looking out for
no, because that's all we heard, in the justification for Kevin Durant to play the other night was, the Warriors doctors cleared him. Of course they fucking cleared him. Warriors are down 3-1 in this series. They're
going to do whatever they can to get a win.
Yeah, they're going against Kawhi Leonard, who's playing out of his mind. Van Vliet, who's
hot take here. Kawhi is the best player in the league and has been for several years.
Yeah, but then you have guys like Van Vliet who is playing out of his mind too. And where the fuck did he come from? It's just all coming together for the
Fred VanVleet is having a magical run, which means he's going to get a nice contract from the Phoenix Suns.
But that has nothing to do with these finals right now. But you know what? Golden State had to do what they had to do. They had to convince Kevin Durant to play one way or the other because, like we said earlier, if Kevin Durant's not playing, then Golden State hasn't bought themselves extra life in this series to play a Game 6. And that's just the fact of the matter.
I don't agree with you on that. He only played into the second quarter and only had 12 points.
The
game was still in doubt, well past beyond him limping off the court.
Yeah, but he was on fire to begin that game, and it's not like Golden State ran away with it.
The fourth quarter is the only thing that matters.
It's not like when it came down to it, those straight threes that he was shooting at the beginning of the game certainly played a factor.
Fair enough.
But again, is the NBA the biggest culprit when it comes to something like this? No. NFL's probably worse. NFL is worse. You go down with an injury in the NFL, you might not get your job back. Depending on who you are.
Non-guaranteed contracts will do that to you.
And we've mentioned this before as well. With what was the shot they have lined up in the
Tortorol.
The Corderall shots with your number on it?
Yeah.
Tortorol. Yep, Tortorol. Dorf, you had something injected in your foot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that several times in my foot.
Yeah, and what was it? It's a surge.
It's a injectable anti-inflammatory, most commonly used for normal people immediately post surgery.
Yeah. But they're injecting football players with that so they can
on a weekly basis. You should probably, for the sake of your kidneys, have maybe it twice or 3 times in your life. And those guys get it every week.
Yeah. So I mean, and does that play in? Does the culture of American professional sports play into that? Play into that a little bit? And the way,
baby.
And the
win, baby, win.
And the way that the NFL has set themselves up, and the way that in some sense the NBA, even though I don't know of them doing that, I don't think they do it. Sure, yeah, absolutely. Anyways, anything else, guys? No? Okay. Well, we're going to get in the final stretch of the Majors Live 328 here. We're going to do a little Would You Rather. Starting off with, would you rather pass or take a shot on Anthony Davis for a single season knowing that he wasn't going to re-sign with your team after next year? And I'm looking at particular teams like...
name the team and I'll give you a yes or no.
Okay, well...
Because if you're going to ask me if, like, the Charlotte Bobcats should do this, or, like, the Orlando Magic or the Phoenix Suns, fuck no. But, like, if you're going to say, like, Milwaukee...
Yeah.
Okay, if you're the Boston Celtics, do you take a 1-year shot on Anthony Davis?
If I can get Kyrie to re-sign, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Kyrie's not involved in this right now, so you're just getting Anthony Davis. Kyrie Irving is walking at the end of the year. Right now, you're
not doing it.
Not doing it.
Not doing it.
Not doing
Kyrie.
it.
I wouldn't either.
Okay.
Gordon Hayward has just shell of himself since coming back, and Jason Tatum is not a premier player.
Right.
Okay. Same thing.
And you need two or three of those to compete.
Okay. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. Then, do you take a 1-year shot with Kyrie Irving, and you're not?
He's a free agent. He can sign wherever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Kyrie Irving is one of those guys where if he doesn't land with the team that he wants to land with,
he ain't playing.
He's going to give up on you halfway through the year.
I think a reuniting with LeBron James in Los Angeles is going to happen.
Oh, you think so?
Really?
I think so. I think that town is big enough for the two of them, whereas Cleveland wasn't.
I bet you he doesn't. I guarantee he goes to Brooklyn because he just fired his agent today. He's about to sign with Jay-Z.
Yep, Rock Nation.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, isn't Jay-Z pretty good buddies with Bron too?
Nah,
not that I know of.
What about Brooklyn or the Knicks too? Either one.
I bet he goes to Brooklyn.
I have a feeling he might go to Brooklyn too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that would be so fucking crazy though if he does go to LA and he's reunited.
That would be insane.
Jesus Christ!
Watch, he signs with the Lakers, and then somehow the Lakers decide, and LeBron's like, I'm gonna go play for the Pelicans and trade for Anthony Davis.
Oh well, I don't think that'll happen.
No, that wouldn't be bad.
All right,
or he gets traded across the building to the Clippers.
It's traded to the other locker room. What would you say would be what would you rather say is the bigger choke job? The Warriors losing to Cleveland after being up 3-1, or the Raptors potentially losing to the Warriors after being up 3-1?
Bigger choke is definitely LeBron in Cleveland. The Warriors are the walking wounded this time around, and it seems like Toronto is the team of destiny after taking out the best team in the regular season in Milwaukee and making it look easy.
Yeah.
I honestly think that the bigger choke job would have been, historically that Cleveland and Warriors meltdown there.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Dorf 100% on that one.
Yeah, I agree with you too, Dorf, just because, they're the walking wounded right now in terms of the Warriors, but they're still a damn good team.
Yeah.
They still have a lot of.
When you get Steph Curry, Thompson, and Green hot on fire, they're unstoppable.
Yeah, they still have a lot of really good players despite. So
right, you got Klay Thompson this past game. He's just coming back from his little.
He's
injury.
hurt. He's not 100%.
Right.
Steph Curry looks slow.
Yeah, you can tell he's exhausted.
Well, Steph Curry had the shits the other night. Serious.
Oh, yeah. But he had a nice game though. Still, was it his flu game?
Oh, in relation to Michael,
if they come back and win, is it his flu game?
Maybe.
It's his shits game.
I'll tell you what, though, if they're able to come back from this,
The brown streak.
It's impressive.
oh, gross, Dorf. All right. Finally, would you rather see overboard celebrations or subtle happiness in relation to the United States women's national team and the 13-0 victory over Thailand the other day?
I couldn't care less. I'm sorry. By the way, in 2017, the women's national team lost to the under 15 development team for FC Dallas 5-2. I'm sorry. I'm not impressed.
No, but I'm saying just really in general when it comes to sports.
Yeah, whatever.
You don't care?
No.
I want to see overboard celebrations, man.
Yeah. They won 13-0.
That game was over 5 minutes in.
Well, it was over 5 minutes before the game started.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that's true. Yeah, it was over as soon as the bracket was announced.
Yeah, but I think in sports in general, I want to see overboard celebrations.
Yeah.
I think that's.
If you're kicking ass like that, you deserve it.
Not to mention
So does this devolve into a bat flipping with a 6-run lead? Is
Hell
that a
yeah.
party?
Fuck yeah, I want to see
Hell
that.
yeah, and I want to see a brawl right after that.
Ian Kinsler be damned.
I am team bat flip, but I just can't be brought to care about.
I am team Korean League bat flip. That's what.
Hell yeah, the bat lands in the fourth row of the stands.
The KBO is pro bat flip, but if like a pitcher pimps it off the mound with a strikeout or shows any emotion, it's like the biggest party foul ever. That's the crazy part about the KBO.
Yeah. I don't know. I think in terms of
there was an American pitcher pitching in the KBO that like last week I got pissed when he threw like 5 straight balls and like threw his glove at himself, and he got like stared down and the whole crowd went silent. Saw the video of that. He was just like tossed his glove up in the air because he was pissed at himself because I think it was like 5 straight balls or something like that, and just everyone was like,
they're probably like damn white people.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I'm tired of hearing the criticism being hurled towards the women's national team though over this. It's World Cup. It's World Cup too. It's goal differential. You have a goal differential to deal with, and
you've sealed that for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, run up the score. Do what you need to do. And come on, it's supposed to be fun too.
It is. I thought it was interesting.
If you don't like it, score goals too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, I'm very anti, taking your foot off the gas and blowouts. If you don't like it on the receiving end of that, don't let them do it.
Exactly. Play harder.
Yeah, even you, Thailand.
Yeah. Honestly, I was on a lot of the receiving end of a lot of beatdowns in football and baseball as an amateur. You know what? I am very, even saying that, I am very pro. If you don't like it, stop me.
Okay, you guys, what's your worst loss in any sport that you have played? Any sport that you have played. What's your worst loss that you have ever had to deal with? I've got mine.
Go ahead.
Long time ago, beer league softball, my team was no hit. My team was no hit. Worst loss I think I've ever had to deal with. Coming up second to that was, you guys were on this team. Remember we had that huge lead in that championship game against like the best team, and we blew it.
Yeah,
we blew it.
We were up like 11 in the 5th.
Yeah, and we fucking blew it. That's another
runs in 1 inning for us to lose.
Yeah, that's another one that was up there, and you could slowly see it unraveling too.
It was just, oh no, it wasn't an oh no, here we go again, because that hadn't happened before. But like, oh god, yeah.
I was saying my worst one that I can think of right now. It was my sophomore year of high school for football. We were playing Bay City John Glenn, and at halftime we were losing 65-0. And on the kickoff after that, I severe sprained my ankle, and I was out the rest of the season.
Oh, man. What was the final of the game? Do you remember?
I think we ended up losing, 80-something to nothing. It was bad. It was bad. I remember that was, gosh, man.
I was on the receiving end of some bad losses, but I think my worst one was probably homecoming, my junior year of football. I think the final score was 52-6.
Oh, jeez.
For homecoming, too.
Yeah. I don't know how familiar people are with the football rules here, but when it's over like a 30-something point game, it's a running clock. It was a running clock in the first quarter. It was bad.
Oh, right. Anyways, all right, bitches and badasses then. Who wants to go first to finish things off tonight?
I'll do it.
All right, Dorf, go ahead.
Best first or bitch?
Badass.
All right, badass this week. Actually, I'm going to do the NFL because it gives us the lovely entertainment of making the Oakland Raiders the team for the Hard Knocks. We can just see how big of a buffoon John Gruden is as a coach and see if everything we think about him is correct. And at the same time, again, experience an NFL team moving just like it was when the Raiders were, the Rams did all or nothing from Amazon while they were moving.
Yeah, it's a good point. Good point.
The added human interest and drama of that is kind of interesting.
You know what that means, though? Next year, though, the lines are probably going to be the lines are probably.
I wanted it this year.
I wanted it this year too, but you take out another team from that pool, and the Lions. It's going to happen next.
Yeah, they could have technically gotten it and turned it down. They were still able to turn it down.
Were they? Shawn.
I don't know how that works, but they were still able to do it.
Who do you have, Shawn?
For my badass. So I've been pretty impressed. I'm going to keep with the baseball. You and I were talking about this beforehand. Mm-hmm. The Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Going into the season, signing Nelson Cruz to a 1-year deal, signing Marlon Gonzalez, who was pretty...
in the middle of March for free.
Right, exactly. Look at Jake Odorizzi. Oh, my gosh. He's 9-2 with a 1.92 ERA. Where did he come from?
Don't forget about Jake Odorizzi was a top 100 prospect.
He was, but he basically sucked until now.
Well, yeah, he was fine with the Rays. He sucked dick with the Royals, and then he's quietly turned in a couple good years for Minnesota.
Right. I mean, I've been very impressed with Minnesota. They're just running away with the Central by far.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the only team that you could argue is really trying in the Central besides them is the White Sox, and they just don't have enough pitching to do anything.
My badass this week is Jalen Rose again. For everything that we've talked about earlier, I thought he nailed I think he nailed it with everything that he said about sports media and culture. And I know Dorf and I are on two other ends of the spectrum when it comes to something like this, but. Yeah, I totally agree with Jalen Rose 100%. Bitch, who wants to take it?
I will go first.
Shawn, go ahead.
I'm going with that bastard who shot David Ortiz.
Oh, good one.
Seriously, come on. David Ortiz is
for $8,700.
Seriously, it's like, come on. I'm like, seriously.
I know that's a lot in the DR, but come on.
Well, it's like, come on. What did David Ortiz ever do to you? All he does is hit home runs and freaking win championships for
He's
the
a local hero.
Yeah.
You took out a contract hit on a dude for $8,700, just like God in that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
You were willing to kill a god for $8,700.
Right. Well, did you guys see some of the video of when
nobody else was having it.
Yeah, when the people caught up to the guy that shot him.
The shit out of him.
That's a little Santo Domingo street justice for you right there. Jesus Christ.
I don't condone that, but you're not going to see me upset. You know what? Because I really do. This kind of gets into personal politics, but value the rule of law, and that ain't it. But I ain't upset.
Man, yeah. Well, the guy's lucky. He's still alive.
Well,
right
he won't
now.
be much longer.
I don't.
Hopefully, he gets a fair day in court and serves his prison time or whatever. However they do it down in the. I'm not going to say I'm familiar with the system of law in the Dominican Republic.
I'm saying when you shoot somebody who like David Ortiz is a local god, you go to prison down there, you ain't making it out.
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of prisoners in Dominican Republic jail that are big David Ortiz fans. So, Dorf, bitch.
My bitch this week is going to be the San Diego Padres for continuing to act like a fucking minor league team. Mm-hmm. They optioned Chris Paddock,
yep, I saw
arguably one of the best pitchers in baseball this year, to A-ball because they don't want to actually win games.
You know what?
They're doing it for, we want to take innings off his arm. He's like 24 and he's been in pro ball for 5 years. He can fucking handle it.
Okay,
but he's had Tommy John before.
So?
Who cares? You're in the fucking playoff hunt. You spent $1 bazillion fucking dollars on Manny Machado this year. You've got a ton of money tied up in and Eric Hosmer and Will Myers. Stop acting like a second-class team and fucking go for it.
Yeah, I agree. That's, you know what?
The Dodgers are fucking great this year. That's fine. But you know what? Stop acting like a fucking bullshit second-tier team.
You know what, you guys? Baseball has some problems. They do.
I don't know how you legislate it, but this bullshit shouldn't be allowed.
Baseball has some problems, and one way or the other, I think baseball is going to be heading for a strike at some point. It is, and it's something that we've mentioned too on these airways before in the past when it comes to teams not wanting to spend money and shit like that. And you just go on and see how many piss poor teams there are in Major League Baseball this year, and baseball is heading towards it, and it's not going to be pretty. And baseball is in trouble, I think, when it comes to shit like this. So,
real quick, like, how disappointing has Manny Machado been this year? Off was betting 238, and we has 10 home runs and 33 RBIs.
Yeah, and I mean, what kind of and the thing is too is with what Dorf was saying and bitching the San Diego Padres. I mean, what kind of why should Manny Machado go out there and play if the Padres are just going to do this type of bullshit,
right? And
option one of their best arms down to not just AAA, but
one of the best arms in the National League to A-ball. He's not actually going to pitch an A-ball. It's entirely like, well, we need to put you somewhere, so we're going to pay you the absolute minimum amount we can and keep you in the organization. Enjoy your prorated portion of $1,100 a month, Chris Paddock. Because we got to stash you somewhere, and because we can't DL you or there's no other option to to limit you and just take you off the roster. The bullshit like this happens, and I'm sorry, that's not okay. That's anti-competitive. It's not good for the players financially. I'm sorry, and I just can't get behind it. And if it was a team that was like perpetually competitive, like the Red Sox, the Yankees, the St. Louis Cardinals, and they did this once in a while. It's the San Diego Padres who haven't won anything in fucking forever, and they're always doing this, and it just God.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Can't imagine.
You're taking Chris Paddock from me.
I'm gonna switch up my bitch from and I'm gonna give it to the critics of the U.S. Women's National Team.
Oh, you calling me a bitch?
Yeah, I'm gonna call you a bitch.
I can't.
Wouldn't be the first time, but
I know it wouldn't be the last time. I'm sure either.
It's not gonna be the last time either. Go back and listen to the Politics of the Empire. I'll bitch Dorf on that show too.
I have answers that I didn't have then. I have them prepared now. But that's a different show for a different time.
Oh, Dorf.
I'm sorry, Dorf.
It's all right.
Get your shit together.
It's not that I'm a critic, man, about the women's national team. I just can't be brought to care.
That's fine. Not a fan. I get it. And
I can't be brought to care about soccer, period. And I really can't be brought to care about this one.
Hey, you know what? Soccer's not nearly as popular as it is in the United States as it is around the world. So, hey, I hear you.
Let's put it this way. I have only so many sports fucks to give, and it's a lot smaller number than it used to be. And I'm just not spending any of my sports fucks budget on this.
Hey, though, MLS, though, talking about going to 30 teams here. Mm-hmm. Detroit's going to get a team somewhere or another.
I had access to a soundboard. I'd be playing the Peter Griffin. Oh, my God, who the hell cares?
Yeah. I know there's one local team, Detroit City FC, that's not happy about that, though. For good reason, too. I get it.
Oh, they can cry me a river.
Hey, that's...
Hey, if
produce
you want
better players or get more notice.
Probably
want to be taken seriously, let Dan Gilbert buy you, and or somebody else, a major investor, buy you, and elevate you up to the big leagues. It costs you your soul or whatever you want to call it. But if you really want to make it there, you're not going to get absorbed in your current form. It'll never happen. They'll start something new and fresh and leave you behind if they really wanted to get into the Detroit market, unless, of course, you allow yourself to be purchased by someone who's a real big-time player financially. Sorry, that's just how it's going to work.
I love it, though. They're
the Northern Guard's nuts, man. I'll give them
fun.
that.
Yeah, that's European soccer fandom at here in the United States. I don't think you see anything. You really don't see anything close to that. Mm-hmm. Even within MLS or anywhere else in the United States, it's great, and I hope
they have hooligans, man.
Yeah, I hope
damn hooligans.
I hope that they're able to elevate themselves one way or the other, and really take advantage of the popularity or the growing popularity in the United States when it comes to football, soccer. Anyways, that's going to do it this week, everybody, for the Majors Live. We'll be back at it again probably next week.
Not sure. Maybe.
So for Dorf, Shawn, I'm Adam saying have a good night, everybody.